park, it's still not attached to it, so it's never been
But
into
we're
the town.
gonna
So-
work on that,
So my question, my point
we're gonna
being,
annex
Well,
that
that's-
75-foot piece of
so we
property.
gotta resolve that issue, because if we don't, then we're not gonna get taxes, because we're only part of the
Yeah,
property.
yeah,
right?
no,
Because
no.
once we sell it, then it's gonna go to the township.
Yep.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
no, right now.
Right now,
But
it is right
we-
now. So we
That
gotta-
is part of the
so,
option that we will.
I guess what I'm saying, we gotta be smart about this and do a strategy. So I think we need to probably petition, put something on the ballot, and see if people want to keep part, and if they're willing, a cost to it. And if they're willing to support it, then that's a different issue. If they don't want to support it, then basically it tells us then they don't want the park. Because we know the school system don't want it, realistically, because the Old Fort has their own complex, they have a complex over there in
Yeah, the only thing we had to offer
Yeah,
that they
so-
don't have is swimming.
Right, yeah, so,
Do you really think the town's gonna support keeping that park out?
well, we're probably not, but the
No.
point being is we gotta do it so that everybody has an option.
We're gonna have a town meeting and talk to them.
Well, I think-
Put it on the ballot, talk
Well,
to
we
them.
can put it on the ballot, that way you got proof that
We
you
got
did
proof,
what you did.
because we can have a town meeting, which we have these all the time, every month, and nobody comes to it. So the issue comes down to is then they have the right to vote on it one way or up or down, and then once they make a decision, but I think we have to annex it in first, so that if we do sell it, then we get the revenue from it. And then we at least get something out of it, because right now it's this liability for us. And I asked Mom about the Seneca County Park District or whatever, to see, well, as an option, do like what Seneca County does, because they have a pretty decent park system. Well, maybe we're not gonna deal with them or something like that, but they're in the same boat as we are, they don't have any money, they spend that money basically to pay for the mower.
Fuel.
And-
all the grass.
And they do not want the
Yeah.
swimming part of it.
Right.
They don't want the quarry.
Right, so, I guess we need to investigate that, we've gotta do it the right way, so
Oh, yeah.
everybody has a say into it, and not just us.
But regardless, we wanna annex
Yeah.
before we do anything.
What, now, you mean, try and annex it into the village?
That's correct.
It has to be contiguous to the village.
That's right.
We've done this before.
Right, so we gotta resolve that.
And then there's
There's that
a
75
property-
foot, yeah, 75-foot piece there, that I guess we were supposed to do this years ago, and it never happened. So,
Then there was a gentleman, we don't have an agreement with, is it Liberty Township?
Liberty is right here.
And there was a gentleman there from Liberty Township who was terribly opposed to it at the time.
That's Tim, I'm
That's
sure.
Oh, yeah. But once we annex that in there, and it's our property, we can say we want to annex it in, can't we?
Well, part of the process was, if it's contiguous, and then there's supposed to be an agreement with the township as to how you divide up taxes and everything else, which I think was the main objection.
But if we get annexed and go, and we own all the property all the way out through the park, then why can't we just put the village limit out there on that side of the on the thing?
But the issue is annexing it, getting there in the first place.
With the top, or the,
And there was property in between. Now, if we were to if the property in between were to become part of the village, you can annex a part of property that is attached, but you can't annex
Right,
Old
so
Fort.
what we're saying, we need to figure out what we gotta do to resolve the issue. We've got a 75-foot strip that, right now, that is gonna be donated to us, whatever,
Yeah.
somehow we gotta figure out how we make it, so it's all one.
And then there's supposed to be an agreement with the township as to how we deal with the tax aspect of this. And so we do have to get together with the trustees.
Right, so what we gotta do?
because
One of whom is,
Vesuvius is already in
the
the
same.
city.
There really shouldn't be a tax issue we don't pay taxes on.
they're losing taxes is what they're looking at, I'm sure.
Right.
But I mean, we don't
That's
pay
what I'm
tax
saying.
now, so they ain't
I'm
losing
not
money.
here to argue their position, it's just that one of the trustees was terribly opposed to this the last time we looked at it. And he had a quote, and so I've always said, well, we're waiting for a petition.
So I guess what we need to review is we need to understand what we have to do to make that happen. So what
And
we have to have-
and we have to do it.
You have to have the property right next to it,
right,
okay? So I'm telling you now,
Right.
if we have contiguous property
Right.
to it that is part of the village, then we can go through the process, but part of the process is we also need to have an agreement with the Liberty Township trustees as to who gets what piece of the pie in all of this. And the last time we looked at it, the trustees were not willing to look at that with us. So that was for an annexation by agreement. So then if you're looking for a hostile takeover of sorts, well then you're looking at a whole different issue.
But we already own the property.
It's not, it's
See,
not,
they
it's not
didn't-
whether we own the property, there's another entity, the township, that it's part of.
There, I live in the township, but I border city of Fremont. I don't have to enter into an agreement with the township if I wanna annex myself into the city. Why do we have to enter into an agreement with the township when we already own the property?
We should have a standing township as to what to do in regards to annexations, as far as the tax implications. And that's what they're all interested in.
Well, that was Stoverville, right? That he said over his dead body.
Yep.
You know, that was out there.
So I guess we need to understand what our position is from a legal point of view, how we move forward, because this is what I think we all kind of agree, we're going to make that annex in here before we do anything. So that way
We have to have the property right next to it
okay.
as
We will.
part,
Yeah.
as,
We will.
as part of the village of Bettsville.
It is.
So I guess,
And then-
All that part's done. All we gotta do is get that 75 foot.
well, that's what I'm saying, so what we do.
And then once, and also though, we should be approaching the trustees
Right.
for an agreement.
Well, I think-
So we can do this all by
No, I don't
agreement.
understand.
Right,
You can't
but I think
get
the first
it
thing we
out
do is we get control
You know.
of that 75 foot. So I think
Mhm.
that's the
We
first
gotta
thing
do
we
it.
do.
Never
We can
let
do
us
both
annex
at the same
out there.
time.
No, but I think we got to do
We
that
can
first.
also approach the township trustees and say,
Well,
okay,
here should
by the way, we do want to expand the village. And if they're open to it, great, then we start putting things together with them. We can do everything at the same time.
But,
Why wait for an agreement? And then if they say over their dead body, then we know, well, then we're gonna have a contested issue here, which is quite different in court.
well, that's true, but we still have, the other issue is that they really don't hold us hostage, because we still have, if we own the entity and we decide to sell it, then it doesn't really matter anyhow, we take the money from it and move forward, because it's still our property, as far as the park.
Right.
So the issue comes down to, we can do it annex and then we can look at future taxes, but I'm not gonna be held hostage because one trustee doesn't want to move forward and basically lock the land up. My point being is if we own the entity, the park property, and we decide to sell it, then we should be able to do that. But our goal would be to try to get that continuous. So I think it's all the property that belongs to the Vegetable Village anyhow, that we try to annex it. If we do that, do it that way. But if it comes to a hostile thing, then we still have possession of the property, then we just sell the property. And we still take the property and then put that in the same property, whatever. Because the problem right now is that it's just costing us a lot of money. So we need to look at, does the village really want to keep the park? Are they willing to pay for it? If they don't, then we gotta look at eliminating the cost to the village, from my perspective. So.
But I think our first step is, regardless of what else we do, we have to annex that piece of property.
My question would be, who's often,
Right, well, I don't even,
but how do the respective bidders may be willing to continue with the deal, knowing that it was annexed to the village? In other words, their tax liability may change.
And some of them even told me, you wanna get that in the village, so you get section.
That's fine, I'm throwing that question out
yeah.
there.
Well, I think we need to look at all those options, but we need to, I think we need to, from my perspective.
We have to do it right.
We have to do it right, and the first thing we gotta do is that we need to get that 75 foot resolved, so it's tied together. Then I agree.
Well, and I would say also approach the trustees now. Of the township, it's in.
But,
We already
Nothing
gave
to
them
stop.
Dollar General, they shouldn't hold us hostage with the property.
I'm just saying, it makes sense, I mean, we're not.
Forget burial and
fighting
getting our
the
tax.
battle.
Yeah, I don't fight off the battle, but it's the same,
They
I'm
pay.
not gonna be held hostage either.
No,
I
that's
agree.
right,
So-
but I'm not sure exactly what Rick is saying about how different a hospital, just by the spatial impressions, it's.
Oh, it's intense, I'm sure.
It's
a legal
money,
battle.
it's money.
How about eminent domain? Do we have an eminent domain in our community?
We're
How about I
talking,
go out and-
we're talking about another governmental entity, I'm just saying we need to talk to, get them on board. that also through a written agreement. And then make sure we also have property that we have as part of the village right next to it.
We do.
There's actually investors there putting money in, and they changed their viewpoint about what they're going to do.
The time this came up before, it's, okay, why did we want to do this? Because we had this negative reaction from the trustees who wanted to fight it tooth and nail. So, well, we wanted to police it. That's why, well, the Ohio Revised Code says even though it's not part of the village, we can still police it if we pass the ordinance. So we did pass an ordinance allowing us to police it. And it was at that exact time when that ordinance was passed, though, that was the same time they were fighting it tooth and nail, and we're trying to be diplomatic and not say they're screaming and saying over our dead body, but that's what they were doing. So I'm just, there may be different people there, I don't know these
It's
people,
really changed much, so.
No, it hasn't changed.
But the circumstances may change.
maybe
We don't know
circumstances
how to
have.
approach it.
Well, I think one thing we ought to probably do too, probably honestly have to appraise, so we know what
Oh,
value
yeah,
is
we
right
gotta
there.
do that.
So we know kind of what we're dealing with anyhow, so we have a monetary value, we can make a judgment on as well. So we can see what the investors are interested in doing, and, you know, we want to make sure that we do the right thing for the village.
As far as the concept, I'm all for the concept. We all know that it's a little different.
Right.
I mean, we shelled out at least $5K every year since I've been in this council.
Right.
It hasn't self-sustaining yet, but I don't think it will.
Yeah. You know, and the problem is that we see that the community really doesn't get the part. That's the thing that bothers me more than anything is that, you know,
They're the loudest speakers, but they don't use it themselves,
I understand.
you know?
I
It's-
Okay.
Alright.
So we've got to do what we got to do.
so who's gonna handle that? Who's going to, that department committee? I mean, who's gonna be responsible to start moving this forward?
You know, well, council,
Well, but I'm saying, but who's gonna, I mean, you gotta put the, you know, somebody's gotta kind of be responsible for that. Put a plan together.
Wanna go talk to them?
I can talk to them. And we get more time now.
He's on, he's
I
on.
don't know, one man put the rest of it.
That's how it works.
That's how it works. Donald Trump Jr.
Okay, let's keep going. Any other questions on the part thing? Lee's doing a fantastic
Oh,
job.
yeah,
Lee
he
went
went out
out.
there for 3
He's
days in a
been,
row,
yeah,
yeah.
he keeps the remote up
Yeah.
and everything, it looks good. So, I mean, he's excited, but he likes doing it. He took a lot out of our, he pretty much did it. We took a lot of rain or something, I mean, John and I have a lot to do with it. Other than that. Okay, zoning, Scott?
Still all quiet, no big issues going on, so.
This would fall under zoning for that part. I'm so,
That's all, we just put that new trim in, like trim back the whole wall, and they have the next and stuff, they do that.
Yep, all set, yeah, John says okay.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
When they come in there.
Probably a month or so ago.
No,
What's that?
Yeah, nobody's living in it yet, it's
No,
not hooked
they're
up
working
to,
on it.
it's not hooked up to
Yeah.
the water yet.
That's a good thing.
oh, yeah, I agree. Maybe not, I'll bring different people beside them, but we know. That's very tough, make their face look good.
Move forward. Okay, we'll move on to old business. We're going to do the third reading on ordinance 2015-07. You got the front page to that. It's the addendum to the rules of council.
They have the other copies with them.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, no, it's ordinance number 2015-07. Ordinance amending rules of council with the attached additional rules of council of the village of Bethel, Ohio. Whereas the council of the village of Westville is authorized by statute to set rules of council. Whereas the council is desirous of maintaining civility and fairness for the council of the village, and now therefore be it ordained by the council of the village of Westville, Sept County, Ohio, as follows. Section 1, attached rules of council shall be added to the rules already adopted. Section 2, all previous rules of council remain in effect. This is going to be the third reading. Third and final reading. Do we have any debates on it? And the rules of council, village of Westville, Ohio.
I have a question. It says, limited to blank minutes at one time, our discussion.
Yeah.
Was that filled in?
No,
Is
it's
that-
not filled in. We have to,
I
I'm
was,
gonna have council fill it in tonight. Okay, for the, right to the floor, when any member addresses the council, he or she shall respectfully address the presiding officer. And when recognized by the presiding officer, shall confine discussion to the question under debate. Avoid personal attacks and refrain from plunging the motives of any other member's statements, arguments, or votes. When two or more members ask for recognition at the same time, the presiding officer shall name the member who is first to speak. The exercise of such discretion by the presiding officer is not subject to appeal. However, each member shall be given the opportunity to speak. Limitation of debate. For meetings of council, no member shall be allowed to speak more than once on any one subject until every other member choosing to speak thereon shall have spoken. Member comments are limited to how many minutes you want to do at one time, how many.
And I paraphrase this from the city of Cincinnati, they allowed 5 minutes for each person to speak. The person who brought up the topic was allowed a 2-minute rebuttal. I think that's fair.
Okay, so we want to put 5 minutes in there?
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Okay. Presiding officer can, at his or her discretion, extend the time limit of the discussion. The one primary maker of the motion shall have the right to make a final 2-minute summation before the topic is either acted on or tabled. There shall be no remarks on a subject once the matter has been acted upon. The presiding officer shall indicate when the speaker is approaching the end of his or her allotted time and when his or her time has ended. The presiding officer has the authority to limit debate after all members have had reasonable opportunity for a full debate of the matter, provided that a majority of council may on motion overrule the decision of the presiding officer to limit debate. Personal privilege and character attacks. No member shall assail, question, or impugn the integrity, character, or motives of another member or officer of the village. If the presiding officer determines that a member has violated this rule during the course of discussion while a meeting is in progress, the presiding officer may withdraw permission to the floor of council. If a member or officer of the village integrity, character, or motives are assailed, questioned, or impugn by another member, the injured party can request permission from the presiding officer to address the council on a question of personal privilege. A member shall be granted permission to address council for up to 2 minutes, but the presiding officer may call that member out of order if the presiding officer determines no grounds exist for the question of personal privilege. Censure. If a member assails, questions, or impugns the integrity, character, or motives of another member, officer of the village, or village employee, a member may make a motion to censure the member for the character attack. The motion shall pass if 3/4 of the members present vote in favor of the motion. The accused member will not be allowed to vote on the own guilt or innocence. If the motion to censure passes, the motion shall be published in any and all appropriate medias. Dissents and protests. Any member shall have the right to express dissent from or protest against any ordinance, motion, or resolution of council and have the reason therefore entered in the meeting's minutes. So So that's the third and final reading. So we need to, that'll
I'll
make
make
it,
a motion.
And I'll second it.
that we accept these.
We accept the rules of council.
Ron,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Joyce? Yes. Bill?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Is that in effect right now?
30 days.
30 days. Yeah, you have to send it to- Okay. I got on here again, income service